Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. This is Serial Gaming here, and if you like my content today, do consider subscribing to my channel and click the like button down below. And of course, if you want to further support my channel, there's a join button down there. You can click it to join my membership to enjoy additional perks and extra benefits. Alright, so cutting into the video itself, we're gonna start off a little bit different this time. I changed the format of my explanation right now because we're entering into a new era. So I want to skip out the details of the Crystal Level 90 upgrade as well as the rework, so I can move on as fast as possible to talk about the main price of the banner itself. Okay, so starting off with all of this, it's gonna be Mark. As you can see here, Mark does get some rework in his base kit and his Crystal Level 90 upgrade. He does have a little bit more additional HP dumps right now. The base version of the jump now doesn't consume any ability usage, so I guess it increases longevity. But the skill 2 actually converted the skill 1 from the base version of the jump into the serial jump version, so I'm not exactly sure whether or not that is a good thing because it does decrease his longevity a little bit, but the changes between the jump and the serial jump really is not a huge difference. The only differences is a brave gain in between the attack, in between the HP attack. So like I said, I'm not really sure whether or not giving him the ability to convert his skill 1 into the second form with his skill 2 is a good upgrade or not. Regardless, Mark does have an improve in his follow-up attack, so it means that not just his base skill, all of his attack is going to grant more HP dumps with the follow-up. And his Crystal Level 90 upgrade does improve his EX to be a more party-wide supportive aura, while his additional ability really doesn't have too much, I guess. Anyway, moving on into what I think about Mark. He's a very all-rounder support. He covers cleanse, he has heals, he has batteries, so all the basic thing that you would want from a support. But the problem is, he doesn't cover too much utility outside all those basic auras that I mentioned before. And the only reason if you want to use Mark is for the unique cleanse mechanism, which not a lot of units have them. But then again, their being unique also brings out the fact that this is not commonly needed. So anyway, if you're gonna run Mark in the party itself, Mark's damage is not exactly very fine-tuned even with the upgrade. He does have a RNG proc where he can proc the Confuse debuff on the enemy itself with his follow-up attack if your party doesn't have any debuff. And if you really want to rely on this RNG to be more consistent, you might want to use units like Ram to give him more turns, but then again, because of the fact that he himself doesn't deal a lot of damage, so having him taking turns might not be as efficient as you want it to be, since you might be careful of the turn count, unless of course you don't worry about that. And he does have a very unique mechanism which I think people often overlook, which is the speed down aura. So speed down is not something, like I said, not something people always pay attention to. But units like Ursula, Laguna all have that speed down debuff, which can really actually help to create more space to your team, especially if you're not running any off-turn damage dealer or counter damage dealer. So that itself, I do suggest you can give it a try and see how fun it can be. Anyway, moving on from Mark, I personally think that the next really good support that you can go for is actually Penelo. So the reason why I think Penelo is actually a really good option to go for, her skill 2 right now becomes an instant turn with the Neo upgrade, and it improved her HP++ on both buff version, which is the Rumble and the War's Boss version. Although I'm a little bit confused why they gave her bravery hits on the War's version instead of just relying on the brave gain to deal more HP dumps, since by doing so you can actually use her as a utility to prevent breaks from happening from her side. Regardless, if you're running Penelo in the party, her skill 1 and skill 2 with the instant turn upgrade actually makes a very good FR battery. I'm gonna talk a little bit about this later, but for now, her LD also does have more HP dumps right now, obviously to fit up the content, and she has her LD buff from the quest start right now, so you don't have to start out with her LD immediately. You can save it up for a situation where you need a cleanse. Her EX and everything, again, just have more damage, but it does improve the aura that she has right now. So you can alternate between skill 1 and skill 2 to determine which aura you want to go for, either the Brave damage or the Brave gain. Her additional ability does have the Overflow and Brave gain, so it might be useful for Snow Overflow, but then again, it's not really that obvious that you want to actually use her in a party for that, since she can work just as well as a call. Regardless, for Penelo, like I said, she's gonna be the first FR battery unit that we get. What I mean by that is actually that she will be the first FR charger for you to charge your FR gauge rather quickly by spamming her skill 1 and skill 2. Her EX being an instant turn is a huge bonus for that part because you can just use her EX without having to worry you're wasting it on just using her skill 1 and skill 2. Although do note that her EX doesn't charge the force gauge as fast as her skill 1 and skill 2. Regardless, she also covers the basic support utility that Mogs have, which is the cleanse, the battery, and the heal. She also has an upgrade with her aura, which is quite good honestly, but the only problem is you have to alternate between which aura you want to go for the entire party. You can't just have both world at the same time. As for team composition, since she's a support, she essentially gonna work well with mostly everyone, but she's not really that good with counter unit because of the fact that she has speed up to your entire party. So counter, normally you want the enemy to take more turns instead of your party having to waste turns getting their turn itself. And she's not exactly good with units that requires a lot of buff to your party. I'm not talking about units like Beatrix, but I'm more concerned about units like Sarge, for example, because Sarge actually has that critical buff, but his buff is not frame, whereas Penelo has 3 frame buff at the same time, so it's not exactly the best way to run them together if you're counting on Sarge buff to be very essential for your party. And of course, Penelo, outside her LD and her EX, she doesn't have a lot of Brave shaving. Not that it's a bad thing really, because her EX doesn't break, so it actually works really well if you run her with units like King before. But right now, because her EX is instant turn, after opening up with her EX, you would definitely want to use her HP attack or her LD to let her turn pass. And by doing that, you're gonna break the enemy. So like I said before, the upgrade where her HP attack right now have bravery attack in it in the Wars version is not exactly a upgrade I want, because I would hope that she at least just get the brave gain without any bravery attack so that she can let the other allies take the break itself, like King or Lightning, that essentially benefits a lot from breaking the enemy. But regardless, Penelo is just gonna be my first unit that I go for the Force Enhancement board for my main account, because I really want a Force charger right at the beginning, so I wouldn't have to wait until Little Freya or someone else to actually fulfill that role. Of course, there's a lot coming up later as well for you to choose your main Force gauge charger. Not that it's really important, because for units like Penelo, after charging up the Force gauge, you want to swap her up with other units and then just go ham with the Force FR unit that you have in your party or as the sprint support. So after Penelo, it's going to be Ignis. So you can actually decide between whether you want Penelo as your Force charger or you want Ignis. Both are very similar in that sense. For my main account, I'm choosing Penelo just as a start, and for my alternate, I plan to go for Ignis. Anyway, moving on from there, we'll be getting Warrior of Light as well. So Warrior of Light does get a little bit reworked with more HP dumps in between his attack. It's not bad previously, he just lacks the attack to actually be put into the party itself. So right now, giving him more HP attacks in between his attack actually helps a lot. His LD buff right now start at quest start as well, so you don't have to start off with his LD immediately, although it is still recommended to do so to make sure you can lock all the enemy onto yourself. His Crystal Level 90 improved his EX obviously, and his additional ability actually gave him a little bit more on the party-wide aura buff. Essentially the Brave gain is what you're looking for. But anyway, Warrior of Light also get his BT+, Right now his BT effect is extend up to 8 turns, which is really good because previously it was only 4 turns, and I know that Warrior of Light is not exactly the fastest unit, but just giving him 4 turns is so sad, especially given that his effect is not all that great. So right now it's extend up to 8 turns, and it does provide a 20% party HP damage and the HP damage cap out, which is really all what we want from a support unit. Because let's be honest, Brave damage is not as essential as it was before. More importantly is always the HP damage. And right now he also provides 50% party Brave gain up, which is it's tied to his kit, so I won't say it's a bad buff. But overall, as a BT effect itself, it's not the greatest, definitely. I think there's a lot more BT unit that has far superior buff, but then again, if you're a World of Light fan, this buff is more than enough for you to constantly place him in the party itself. So like I said, World of Light, he was already good before his rework, because he essentially fulfilled the role of protecting your entire party from all attack, regardless if it's a bravery attack or a HP attack. And he also doesn't have to rely on lock to actually manage the protection of your party. So again, if the enemy is resistant to lock debuff, he's not exactly worried about that particular fact itself. Warrior of Light also has a benefit of his skill doesn't rely too much on Brave damage, but then again, that might be a double-edged sword considering the fact that we do have stages that actually completely cut off Brave gain, so Warrior of Light might suffer a little bit from that. And for those who never used Warrior of Light before, his shield essentially is multiplied by his initial bravery. So he's a little bit different where he needs initial bravery as compared to any other units that you're running. So yep, definitely want to leave that but that particular stats for his artifact if you still doesn't have it. And for team comp wise, since he's more of a Brave gain unit, you can rely a lot on Brave gain support to actually bring up his damage and to bring up his shield with initial bravery up as well. Selfie is a very prime example since she has both of them. And I do mention before that World of Light's protection doesn't just protect the allies from HP damage but from bravery damage as well. So the shield itself is essentially very powerful, especially with units that actually don't have any Brave refund after spamming their HP attack. Vincent is the prime example of this situation, since even using Vincent's bravery attack doesn't prevent his follow-up from happening. So, and his follow-up doesn't have any Brave refund. So yeah, you can see that why Vincent is so prompt to get broken. And Warrior of Light is just really helpful for that. Warrior of Light though, he doesn't have a lot of HP dumps regardless from his base skill, even with the upgrade, but his LD with the sick amount of HP dumps from his LD, which is 6 single target HP attack. It's not the best, of course, if you compare to unit like Sephiroth or even like Kain, which I will be talking about, that has 7 single target HP attack on their base skill itself. But it's more than enough as a tank DPS for you to cover the force time that you will be getting so that you can fully abuse the damage itself. Anyway, that's about Warrior of Light. I do think he's very good, don't get me wrong. He's still one of the better tanks. But the fact that he lacks counter kind of hurts him a little bit, because most tanks right now in the game you want to rely on do have a little bit counter in between their kits. Anyway, after Warrior of Light, we'll be talking about the main prize of the banner. You can't tell me otherwise, he's gonna be the main prize. And that is Kain. Kain get a ton of rework on his base skill because he doesn't get that freaking rework during his LD release, which a lot of people are really disappointed about. But regardless, right now he gets that rework. So yeah, 4 single target HP attack on his skill 1, but with the splash, and his skill 2, the insane 7 single target HP attack, which is similar to Sephiroth. But Kain does have the benefits of having high turn rate on all of his skill, except his EX of course. But the best upgrade about Kain's basic kit is actually his follow-up attack. Right now, when in the air, he'll be performing 2 split AoE HP attack. Now this might not seem a lot, but for a follow-up attacker, and for a unit that actually that will perform this attack regardless of whether or not you're attacking the enemy, as long as you're taking a few action, he will perform that follow-up. that itself made Kain one of the best follow-up attacker in the game right now, and even in JP right now, not just in global. And with the Crystal Level 90 upgrade, he does get more damage as well from his EX and everything, but that's not essentially the upgrade you're going for, because you're looking forward to, because Kain is going to spend most of his time up in the air itself. The additional ability does provide Kain a little bit more bravery damage, but like I said, that's not the upgrade you're looking for, since when he's in the air itself, the bravery damage, the bravery stored within him is going to stick there regardless of how many HP dumps he's dealing. So he's essentially going to cap most of the time unless he's hitting with numbers like 1. So brave damage cap out is not going to help him a ton. But his additional ability attack is a action attack, so it does increase his stack up by 1. So you can use that to actually gain more stacks for his overhead for him to launch a little bit quicker. Anyway, moving on with Kain, he also got his new shiny BT weapon, which is really the weapon that you want to go for in this current banner. His BT now does a 40% party stolen and gain overflow up, of course 20% if you didn't BT plus it, a 50% party brave damage up, a 20% party HP damage up, and a 30% party HP damage cap up, and 20% if you didn't BT plus him. But this itself is just really good because it lasts for 8 turns, and Kain has a very low turn rate on his jumping ability. So when you use that itself, Kain can essentially last for a very long time for his BT effect. Not to mention that BT effect is actually pretty good. It has overflow for you to abuse it if you want to use an overflow. It has bravery damage, which is the essential part for your other party members. It has HP damage up, which is really good, obviously, and he has HP damage cap up, which is even better for him since his HP damage is always capping. So that itself is just gonna be very, very powerful for Kain. And lastly, we'll be getting the newest weapon in this era, which is Force Weapon for Kain, as being the first Force Weapon of the game in global. Alright, so Kain Force Weapon, for most Force Weapon, we're gonna be dealing a 3 split AoE HP attack, and it's like a BT but a little bit less in the HP damage cap and bravery damage cap up. But the force damage actually has a 150% brave damage cap up and a 200% HP damage cap up. So you're basically going to deal over the normal limits that you normally have in your base skill. So this itself can actually help you to even go more into Snowball Flow if you're interested in it. And for Kain being able to actually sustain his HP damage or his bravery stored while he's in the air, he can actually benefit a lot from Snowball Flow, and I really want to try him out with Snow if I do have his FR. I'm not gonna pull very hard just to put it out there first, but if I do get his FR and his BT, I want to try with the Snowball Flow effect. Anyway, his FR is an instant turn skill and it initiate launch. Note that this doesn't apply to all FR, this is specifically for Kain itself. And once you use his FR, he'll be starting at a 120% force time with 2 specific conditions. The first condition is if you're using a range ability, including off turn, he'll be increasing the HP damage bonus up by 5%. And if you launch the enemy, it'll be increasing for another 5%, which is ridiculously sad. I only hope that the launch an enemy part can actually increase up to 5% per ally partaking into the launch, and the use a range ability condition could actually be reworked into a 10% at least, since that is really just so bad. And at least make it something like if you're using range attack on turn, you might get 20% or 40%, and then if you use the range attack off turn, you might get 10%. That would actually benefit Kain with his FR a lot. Anyway, for now, we're just getting the first version of the FR, so I don't see any rework anytime soon, because we don't even get it right now in JP unless Global decided to throw us a surprise. So regarding this particular team composition, if you're just aiming for the boosting the FR, you can use unit like Size and Laguna, which I did in my previous video actually, and every Laguna's grenade actually triggers 5% of the condition itself. So Having both Size and Laguna in the party means that every Size follow-up attack will trigger Laguna's grenade. So in a situation where 2 enemies is present, you'll be at least increasing by 15%, 10% from Laguna's grenade, and 5% from Kain's follow-up. Using that into calculation, not including all those on-turn capability that you can do, it helps a lot by boosting damage, but you can have more damage boosted if you let the enemy get more turns with this team composition. Although do understand that this composition is not exactly the safest, considering that Laguna is just standing there without any protection, unless you use units like Celeste Call to actually lock the enemy onto a particular unit other than Laguna, since Size and Kain can evade those attacks, although Size can't evade guarantee attack. So yeah. Anyway, moving on, we also have off-turn range attacker such as Spirion, Maria, Freya, Trey, and Kater. All these units are example where they can also trigger the condition where if you let the enemy get turns, they also trigger 5% for every attack that they partake in. And for you to trigger the launch an enemy constantly, of course, Selfie is your best bet since she makes everyone a launcher. Yeah, so this is the FR team composition if you want to go for Kain. And we're gonna move on into another part where I'm gonna just talk about the team composition itself. These are units that I think will go well with Kain, but they're not units that go well with his FR, which is also the format that I will be going forward. Anyway, the pros of Kain, like I said before, he's one of the best off-turn damage dealer even in the JP section right now. He's extremely easy to use, just one LD, instant turn, and then you can just launch, fly up into the air. He's also extremely future viable, I mean for obvious reason, because in JP, he's still one of the best. He has self-protection with all the evasion he gets up in the air, and naturally because his damage is mainly focused on off-turn, you can actually run him with units that turn Hawks a lot, like Elise, Zal, Vayne, and you can actually run him with another units that perform often like Cisne, because Cisne actually benefits with Turn Hogger as well. So Cisne, Kain, and a Turn Hogger with enough aura support, you can actually, or even aura debuff, that you can actually benefits a lot from this team. And since Kain is more of a off-turn damage dealer, you can even rely on the enemy getting turns for him to trigger his follow-up attack. So by doing that, you can actually run him with counter units so that they can fully neutralize the enemy with the enemy getting turns. And I'm just gonna put this out there, regardless of how usable his FR is, I even use it in the later stage in JP itself, you still can't deny the fact that his FR gets overwhelmed way too quickly for as compared to the upcoming FR that we'll be getting, especially Camelot. So that itself might pull you back a little bit from pulling his FR, which is really fine exactly, because FR is not going to be totally needed until we get around Fujin stage where the boss HP just get ridiculously high. But before that, you can just get by without FR, although it's going to be really difficult. I'm not going to say that it's a cakewalk or a walk in the park. So if you want to make your life easier, do consider pulling some of the FR prior to Fujin's banner. Personally, I'm just going to skip Kain's FR. I'm going to try for his BT because that's really, I mentioned this in Discord as well, because Kain is in an awkward position where his BT is really good, his LD is really good, but his FR kind of sucks. So the most efficient way to actually use Kain is to only max his his BT and his LD without having to max his FR. But then again, that is extremely awkward because for the Seer Final Fantasy Opera Omnia game, we normally want to fully max a character to fill out the completion of Maximum Break the final character instead of just maxing it halfway. But then again, that's the reason why everyone is still going to pull for his FR, even though it's not really the best FR, because of the very fact that they want to feel the completion of completely maxing out a very good character. Yep, so Kain, recommendation for Kain is he's very good. He's definitely one of the better character that we'll be getting right now in this current era. Quick fact is that Camelot doesn't actually last as long as Kain does, even in JP right now, except for his FR. So Kain is just one of the better off-turn unit that you want to go for. If you don't have his if you don't have his LD, I do highly recommend pulling for that banner. If you have it, you can actually wait out for future banners like Crow or Braska for his BT. But if you want to go for his FR, regardless, it's not bad. It's not exactly a bad option to go for it. It's just not what I would recommend for resources saving situation. As for the other banner, which is Warrior of Light and Penelo, Warrior of Light is really good, so I do slightly recommend going for that banner if you don't have both of them. If you have either one of them, then maybe it's not the best option to go for. Penelo is still the first FR battery, and FR battery is always a good unit to have, especially early on into the game, because we don't get FR battery until, we don't get FR battery units that have FR until later down the line. With Luna Freya, I think there might be more unit before Luna Freya to be an FR battery that get an FR, but I'm not really sure, really. But for now, yes, Penelo is still very good to go for, in my opinion, and Warrior of Light is definitely still one of the better tanks, even just as a call alone. So yeah, personally, I think I'll be pulling for Krow's banner because I really like Krow's FR, and I'll be pulling for that banner alongside with Kain's BT maybe, and then I'll pull for Kain's BT and FR on my alternate account. Since I already have fun with Kain during his release on JP, I want to play with him only with his BT right now, not his FR, because I really didn't use his FR a whole lot in my JP account. I focus less more on Krow's FR when I pull both of them, so I don't see myself using a lot right now. Yeah, that's my plan anyway. What about you guys? Let me know down in the comment section below what's your plan for. I put up a poll previously to this video, and I realized that everyone is still going to go for Kain's FR and BT regardless. So I think, like I said, it's not a bad choice, and I can understand why you're going for both of them, because it's, like I said, awkward to actually max out a character without really fully maxing out all their kit. Yeah, so Kain, really good character, really recommend it, and that's it about my video. Do let me know down in the comment section as well, what do you guys think about this format? Is it a little bit better? Because I slightly rushed through about their base rework and focuses more on talking about their FR, because that is more of the part that you want to focus on. So let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers guys!